Husto, in the studio with me is John Edward, a psych medium, rose to fame with his show Crossing Over with John Edward, aired on the Sci-Fi Channel. Um, like anybody working in the area, contentious. Some will say he's a charlatan exploiting people. Others will say he's actually genuinely in touch with something we probably don't understand. I find either prospect fairly spooky, I must say. John Edward, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I do. If you're a charlatan, I don't like you. And if you're really doing it, I'm a bit worried.
You should be worried
Why?
because I'm really doing it.
You're really doing Okay. There are a lot of charlatans, though. What do they do?
I've been doing this work. This is my 29th year. And right before, we went on air, I was saying that I had a conversation with a colleague that I sometimes feel like I side more with the skeptics than I do people in our field. And I think it's changed a lot in the last 3 decades. It used to be, mediumship and talking to people on the other side wasn't something that was like celebrity-like in 1985 and in the 90s. It was something that people who lost loved ones would seek out and then would quietly discuss it amongst themselves because it wasn't mainstream. Circa 1999-2000, Crossing Over hits the airwaves. It shows the subject matter in a integrity, validity kind of way. People now see it as an opportunity to be able to say, I can do that. And more people have come out medium. They've come out like...
So they're not genuine.
Well, I think that people have experiences, and this is the scary part for me, is I think everybody has the ability to tap into intuition, and everybody has the ability to recognize when someone in their family has crossed over, is around them. But the next part, the leap of, I'm going to do it for somebody else, scares me. That's the part that scares me.
How do they do it if they're charlatans?
Well, I think that people who are not legitimate play a game of guessing. Like, they guess. They assess and they guess.
Cold reading?
That's what they call it, yeah.
So what is cold reading?
I don't know because I don't really do it. Cold reading is
you
where...
must have heard it. No?
No, I've been accused of it for three decades.
So you found out what you're accused of. What is it?
Again, I don't know exactly. It's about painting a bullseye around information that, people are saying that you're looking at somebody and assessing them. I don't do that.
Well, you have been accused of sort of getting information before you go on air.
Oh my God!
Program.
Every time somebody has to explain something, they have to go to a place of what's the logic of it. And I was interviewed by a reporter back in New York. It was supposed to be an expose, and it was the part 2 section of a Newsday. You can go look it up. It went through 3 different reporters, and finally, when this one gentleman came, he said to me, "Can I bring anybody for you to read? I could bring anybody you want." So he had divulged to me in conversation that he had lost a sibling. So I'm expecting he's going to walk in the room with his parents. He's going to be like, I have an opportunity. I'm going to hook mom and dad up, see what happens. He didn't. He flew in somebody from Dallas, from Texas. I live in New York. So he flew in somebody who was a self-appointed or prosecutor for somebody who was on death row to see if this person would come through. And the person came through and the information was validated. So when the article got published, he put forth journalistically what he saw in readings and experiences and all this stuff. He said after it was published, he had more people come up to him and say the most preposterous things like, well, he's doing this and he's doing that. He's like, I was there. He couldn't have been doing that because I brought the people.
Well, do you have people fill in a form before they come into your audience?
No.
Are they questioned at all?
No.
No, so that's all totally false.
Totally false. Yeah, totally false. I'll tell you where that comes from, though. When we were doing Crossing Over, we would have people lined up on 55th Street and 9th Avenue where the studio was. And if they wanted to ask me a question, literally, do you believe in spirit guides? Do you believe in reincarnation? People would write that question on blue index cards. That happened for the first couple of weeks. And that turned into us seeking out information. And then other things, people would say stuff like we had hidden microphones in the studio and, people were listening. And I'm like, if you really, really watch, it's not that. It's just not that. And you can only see that if you are around me enough to actually witness that.
Why do you expose yourself to all this? Why not just do it privately?
I do it privately.
No, but why the show business side of it?
I don't see it as showbiz.
Why the public side of it?
Because it's an opportunity to teach. When I was 19 years old, I lost my mom. And for me, it was a pivotal moment. Before that, if you ask me what my goal was, it was to do readings for people and to use my ability and to kind of help them where they're at in their life and kind of project their future and talk about what's coming up for them. Then my mom passed. And when my mom passed, I didn't see anything about it. I had 2 years before that, I predicted my uncle's passing, tried to stop it, couldn't. He died. A year and a half later, didn't get anything on my mom's cancer, couldn't stop it. She died. It was a very difficult period of time for a 17/19-year-old because I thought, why have this ability if I can't do it? If I can't save my own family, like what's the point? But then I needed to know as a person, well, where is she? Like I wasn't close to my dad. Is she going to see me when I get married? If I have kids, like will she be around? All of those questions for me became my motivation of seeking information, and my work kind of shifted, and I put more attention on my mediumship ability.
So how does do you understand? Do you believe you understand how it works when you die? What happens?
I love that question. Every publisher I work with always wants me to write the book of the afterlife, and I go, I can't write that. And they go,
you don't know.
They go, what do you mean you can't write that? I go, I can't validate that. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, I've had the privilege of going to Australia sometimes twice a year for the last decade. I could write a book about my experiences on where I've stayed, what I've seen, and what I've eaten. That's what I could tell you about. I can't write a book about Australia. That would be remiss of me because I don't study Australia. I can only tell you what my little glimpses of what I've seen and experienced. So I don't think it would be right for me to write a book about what I think, or even to say what I think the afterlife is like, or I should say, this is what the afterlife is like. I can tell you what my experience has been, but I can't say this is what it's like.
But you must have a sense of it. I mean, there are these people you're communicating with. Who are they on the way somewhere, or is that where? No, I mean, is it a transitional period, or are they gone forever, or are they just?
I could tell you how I look at it.
Yeah, sure.
I look at it like it's like the internet. It's a place, it's a destination, it's a dimension. You can access it, but you can't go there with a physical body. Various places, different levels. I don't think that I don't define it in the heaven and hell kind of category because that puts it in a religious framework. I try to stay away from that, although I do have a great faith. I say I'm a recovering Catholic, but I am, Catholic by nature. But I don't.
You can't be an official Catholic, can you?
I am an official Catholic, but
I thought they'd frown on this.
One of my best friends is actually a priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does he try to either excommunicate you or drive the devils out? Or
no, not at all. He's actually a great supporter of understanding. You have no idea how many people that are behind collars and temples and churches recognize the reality and the validity of the subject matter with people who are credible. And I say with people who are credible because they see what happens. They see the shift and the change. And when we talk about stuff, we talked about, the skeptics and, cold reading. You should also bring up that I've been to the University of Arizona. I've been tested 4 times there. There's a book written about it, not by me. It's called The Afterlife Experiments. There was an HBO documentary done talking about myself and 5 other people who subjected themselves to double-blind studies where you had to replicate and extend data to show that there's some type of validity. Because I truly believe that it's important to be able to help people understand that this is about energy. You work in radio, we emit a frequency, we send out a frequency, people tune in that frequency. Depending upon how you tune into your station or where you're at and how far reaching it can be, it depends on how clearly somebody's going to be able to hear you. And then sometimes people don't like what's broadcast and they change the dial, right? That happens also, where people don't want to hear what the message is because they might not be ready to hear that their dad is okay and watching over them. That means they have to confront their grief. So there's a whole different...